What's up guys, Tim from Red Goat Garage here. Today I'm working on my T-bucket a little bit and I'm going to show you the easy way to retrofit basically any stock fuel tank with a high pressure fuel pump from Holley. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, I'd really appreciate it. Let's get to it. So here's the fuel tank that I'm going to be using on my T-bucket. So it's basically just a normal tank. I think this one's 11 gallons. Fills there. Normally you would have your fuel line coming off the bottom here for a carbureted application, and I know you could use a inline pump and have it suck fuel, but they're really not designed for that, and I've had bad luck with using an external pump, so I really wanted an in-tank pump. It's quieter, it doesn't have any sort of starvation issues, it keeps the fuel pump cool, all around a much better setup. So this is what I picked up, which is a Holley 19-350 retrofit fuel pumps, and I've used one of these before in the old Cadillac out there, which it didn't have any sort of high pressure fuel pump from the factory, and it's working great. So instructions, who needs those, right? Hey, extend your warranty, that's cool. So here's the actual fuel pump itself. Let me get this out here. Let's do this one-handed. Okay, so I got this out. So this is really the main part here. So this is the Sniper version. And this stuff's pretty slick. So what ended up happening is I'm going to measure over here somewhere, and we're going to drill a hole in here and with a hole saw. And this guy will slip inside there, and then when you tighten it down, these little arms come out and hold it, kind of crimp it, hold it in place. It's got the big foam gasket to keep it all sealed up, and we'll end up doing the measuring. So we'll end up mounting this fuel pump and attaching it with this big old bracket here, and there's some hose clamps there so you can attach the fuel pump to the bracket. There's the sock that goes on the bottom of the fuel pump itself. So I'm going to walk you through the whole installation, but I just kind of wanted to show you what comes with the kit. Now this foam here is actually two pieces. You can kind of see there, split open. And if you were installing this, say like in the Cadillac that I did it on, or the Chevelle we're working on top of, you would lay those strips on top of the tank, and that would help space it down a little bit from the bottom of the floor, so this wouldn't rub against the bottom of the floor. But in my case, I won't have to worry about that. So these I probably won't even end up using. But let me get this all laid out a little bit more, and we'll show you drilling this fuel tank. Okay, so really our first step with installing this thing is going to be to drill a 3 1/4 inch diameter hole up here, and then that way we can get everything measured and get the fuel pump assembly, the hanger and all that installed. So my plan is to do basically put this kind of in between the filler neck and the end, just for aesthetically pleasing reasons, I guess. Now one question you guys might be asking yourself is, will this seal up? Because obviously this tank is round and this is a flat mounting thing. So in the instructions you'll see it basically says that there can be up to 0.28 inches of unlevel surface area, and that this foam gasket here is still going to seal up. So if your tank has ribs on it or anything like that, as long as they're basically below 1/4 inch, it's going to compress and seal up. So I've done the math on this, and it's right at about 1/4 inch from the middle point to the far edge that it drops down. So I should be fine here, but obviously I'll double check this all. But I didn't want to have to weld on any sort of plate here or modify the tank any more than I already have to, because obviously this is already nice and clean, and I don't feel like doing more work, right? So I'm going to lay this out and we will get this drilled, and I'll show you how that looks and how to measure everything. Alright, so I went ahead and taped this up, marked it out, so I'm basically centered from this little bead here to there and side to side. And I went ahead and tapped this a little indent to get my drill bit. So even though these have a drill in the middle of them, I still like to do a little bit of a pilot hole there. So let me get set up here, and we'll draw these things out. Okay, so apparently my bit here is a lot more dull than I thought. So you can see it's trying to bite through there, but it's just spinning round and round and round. So I'm gonna get a new bit and run to the store and get a new bit, and we'll finish this off here in just a minute. Okay, so I tried 2 different hole saws to cut into this fuel tank, and apparently it's just thicker metal than I anticipated. I used the one on the Cadillac and it cut right through no problem, but for some reason this fuel tank is fighting me. So we're going to upgrade to my Miller, I guess let me read the label here, Spectrum 625 Extreme Plasma Cutter. So I actually love this little plasma cutter. It's real small, comes in like a case and everything, but it can cut up to like 1/2 inch thick. So I'm going to slice through this. So let me get set up here and we'll get this hole cut today. Nice hole cut in there, so I'm gonna have to grind and clean that up a little bit, smooth all the edges out. But got a hole right there for the fuel pump to mount. Let me get this cleaned up and I'll go on to the next step. Okay, so we got the hanger installed on here, and there is a measurement that you can do from the mounting surface of your tank to the bottom in order to know how long these tubes or hoses need to be for the pump and the return. But this is a really deep tank because it's for a T-bucket, right? So it's just a cylindrical tank, so it's not as wide as a traditional tank, but therefore it's a lot deeper than a traditional tank. So what I'm going to do is just slide this in here without attaching it and just kind of see here and see without trimming anything like the hanger, return tube or anything. We're sitting flush, and then we figure once the gas gets in there it's going to be up, you know, 1/4 inch or something like that. So I think what I'm going to do is basically just mount this fuel pump. I'm just going to mount it to where it's about level with this hanger here. So I'm going to trim off a little bit up on the top here and mount it to where it's level here. Put my sock on, my 2 hose clamps that come with it. These hose clamps are what kind of hold everything together to keep it in place and keep it from vibrating. So let me trim this up and we'll get this all mounted. I'll kind of show you what it looks like before we set it in the tank. Alright, so I got this hose trimmed up now. I got the clamp. I believe this was a 9/32 wrench that you need to put on there. One tip with this stuff here, this like hard nylon hose, is a heat gun. So about 10-15 seconds of just gently warming it up and it'll help it slide right on, just to soften it just a tiny bit. So next step, I need to get these hose clamps on. So let me turn this around. Okay, so hose is trimmed, wires are good to where they're not going to go anywhere. Got hose clamps here, so we're almost done. Now there's a sock here that goes on the end of this that goes just kind of like that. And you'll notice in your bag or instructions, your kit, there's this little tiny nut here, and that's going to go on the end of this plastic guy here to hold this in place. So let me get that out. And this guy's just going to push on there. Let me try to do it with one hand here. Well, I can't do it with one hand, so, oh shoot. But you can see why you need it though, right? Because if you don't, the sock will just pop right back off. So that's what secures the sock to the actual pump itself. So you want that down nice and secure, so that way all your fuel is getting filtered before it enters the pump. So let me get that on there. Alright, so I have everything ready to install here. So I have put the rubber foam gasket back on for the top here. This is all tightened down. I got the little tiny, I don't know if you can see that, but the little tiny serrated nut thing there to hold the sock on. So all you gotta do now is just set this guy in here. And then I gotta tighten down these 5 Allens, which will swing out those little legs to grip the tank itself and suck it all down to tighten it and seal everything up. So let me do that and then we'll finish this off. Alright, we are finished. So this is the Holley Sniper fuel pump again. These are all 1/4 inch pipe thread, so you can adapt these to an AN fitting or run pipe thread fittings, however you choose to go about it. So the first one here is actually a vent. This middle one is your outer, your pressure, and this one here on the bottom is going to be the return. So pretty simple to plumb it up from here, which I will do in a later video. One thing too is you cannot just wire this into your ignition, or if you are running a Holley Sniper or a Holley Terminator or anything like that, don't just wire this straight in. You will burn things up. You have to run a relay. So you need to run a dedicated fuel pump relay to get good clean power, because this thing can draw some amperage. So if you want the pump to survive, you want your computer to survive, use a relay. So that's it for right now. Like I said, if this hadn't given me the whole solid work the first time, it'd probably taken me maybe an hour to install the whole thing. So it ended up taking me a couple hours because I had to order a different hole saw. Then I ended up just using a plasma to clean it up. So there is a recommended sealer that you can use here. Like if it does start leaking here on the edges, which I don't think it will because that gasket's pretty wide, but if it does leak, there is a recommended sealer that you can use that will help with sealing it up. And let me tell you what that is here, if I can find it in the good old instructions for you. Well, I'm not sure, but it is in here because I read it earlier on what it is. But so like I said, probably about an hour after you drop your tank, or if you have access to it like I do, give it an hour, maybe 2 hours tops to completely install this. And then next thing is just to plumb this up. So super easy, works great. Like I said, I've used a couple of these in the past and other projects that have never had any sort of issue with them. So thanks for watching. Hit that like and subscribe. We'll see you next time.